ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਜੀ ਆਇਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ welcome everybody ਗੁਰਮੁਖ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ it's a pleasure having you here as always today we are on Japa Bani class number 28 and we shall be doing Paurree number 32 so this is the first verse of Paurree 32 ਗੁਰਮੁਖ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ ਇੱਕ ਦੂ ਜੀ ਪਾਓ ਲੱਖ ਹੋਏ ਲੱਖ ਹੋਵੇ ਲੱਖ ਵੀਸ. So let's look at the words one by one first before we put them all together to come up with a wholesome, holistic, definitive meaning of this verse. Ek means one. Do is the Punjabi word ton, ek ton. In other words, from, do, ek do. From one. Jipao refers to the tongue. Lakh hohe means becomes a lakh. Lakh ban jave, lakh hohe. Lakh hove means from a lakh become. Hove actually is to become. So lakh hove means from a lakh become. Lakh vis, 20 lakhs. The word vis, the common word we use bis or be in Punjabi in our everyday usage. So the meaning of this verse, Gurmukh Pyareo, ek du ji pao lakh hove, lakh vis, is if one's tongue should become 1 lakh and from 1 lakh become 20 lakhs. The next verse is lakh lakh geda akhiya ek naam jagdish. Lakh lakh translates as lakhs of times, lakhwar. Geda is the Punjabi word for a cycle. So geda here means cyclic. Something that is done in a cyclic nature, something that is done in a repetitive nature. It means one cycle of something and then followed by a second, a third, and a fourth, and a fifth. A repetitive performance of a deed, of an action. That's called Geda. What kind of Geda? Akhiya. Akhiya in the literal sense is to say, but when it used together with the word lakh lakh and used together with the word Geda, a repetitive saying of something means to chant. In Punjabi, it would be written. The word after akhiya is ek with an ankar. It means one and singular. So the ankar there denotes the singularity of the noun, of the verb. So in this case, ek refers to one singular. Naam with an ankar is a nominative noun for Jagdish. Refers to name because it is being nominated to the next word, which is the creator. So put it all together. The first verse was ek du ji pao lakh ho hai lakh vis. If one's tongue should become 1 lakh and from 1 lakh become 20 lakhs and lakh lakh geda akhiya ek naam jagdish, and if with these 20 lakh of tongues one repetitively chants the one preferred name of God lakhs of times. Lakh lakh geda akhiya ek naam jagdish. Ek naam here refers to a chosen name, a preferred name, a selected name. Lakh lakh geda. So with these 20 lakhs of tongues that Parsha says if one were to attain in the previous verse, with those tongues one would repetitively then chant the one preferred, selected, chosen name of the Creator of God lakhs of times. So these two verses, Gurmukh Pyareo, are a commentary of the existing methods of attaining God, namely the process of repetitive calling upon one word or one concept, what is called a mantra. So this process of repetitively saying something again and again is known as chanting. So this was an existing method at that time. So Guru Nanak in this Paurree, in these two verses in particular, is providing a critique of this existing method of realizing God. Ek du ji pao lakh ho hai lakh vis, lakh lakh geda akhiya ek naam jagdish. Parsha is commenting and providing a critique on the notion, on the action of chanting as a spiritual activity by saying, even if one tongue should become 1 lakh and from 1 lakh become 20 lakhs, and with these 20 lakhs of tongues, one were to repetitively chant the one preferred name of God lakhs and lakhs of times, what's going to happen? Pacha is going to now provide a comparative critique by saying, "Et rah pat pavdiye chadiye hoye ekis." Et the, rah way, the way, et rah. Pat comes from the word Pati, Parameshwar Gurmukh Pyareo, literally the husband, referring to the Lord, referring to the master, referring to the creator. Pavdiya comes from the word Paurree, Paudiyan Chadniyan, literally stairs or steps or rung. Et raha pat pavdiya. Chadiya is to climb or to elevate oneself through the process of climbing up the rungs of a ladder. Hoe is to become. Ek is comes from the word ek ho jana, ek is. It means to become one, it means union, or in Gurmat vocabulary, it means to realize. So let's put it all together. Et raha pat pavdiya chadiye hoye keys means the way to becoming one, et rah, the way to becoming one with, or in Gurmat, to become one is to realize the Creator. So Pacha says the way to becoming one with or realizing the Creator requires the elevation of one's conscience or the elevation of one's spirituality rung by rung. So that in blue, the conscience and spirituality is coming from the context of the previous verses, right from Paurree number 15, Panch Paravan, all the way that we had done until Paurree number 31. So the narration of those Paurrees has all been about the conscience being in command of the mind, and the mind being in command of the senses, and that was the kind of spirituality that Guru Nanak Pacha was advocating towards Sikhs to adopt, to practice, and to become. So Pacha is saying, in that kind of a spiritual journey, that kind of a spiritual discovery, the way to becoming one with the Creator, realizing the Creator, requires the elevation of the conscience or spirituality rung by one. So this verse, in other words, Gurmukh Pyareo, this verse is a description of Guru Nanak's way. The use of the word pavdiya or rungs of the ladder is in line with the flow of the Bani itself, which is Jap Bani with 38 bodies. So the entire essence of the Paurree is to assist the human conscience, the human mind to elevate itself rung by rung, step by step, towards Jinni Naam Tyaya Gaye Mushakat Kal Nanak Te Mukujle Keti Chutti Naal, towards Kev Satyara Hoye. So the usage of the word Paurriya here refers to elevation. So the Bani itself is a Paurree by Paurree, or what we call a rung by rung chart for elevating one's spirituality to attain God or to realize God. So Pacha is saying, Etra, the way to becoming Pata Pavdiya, realizing the Creators, is through the Pavdiya Chadiya Hoye Ki's elevation of one's conscience and spirituality, rung by rung. Next verse, Pacha returns to the critic. Son Galla, Akas ki Kita Iris. Son is to hear. Galla, talk or narrative, narration, discourse. Akas ki, literally it means of the sky. But because in the previous verse, Pacha already talked about Patta Pavdiya Chadiya Hoye. So here Pacha, when he uses the word Akas ki, he's talking about that elevated spiritual level, or that elevated spiritual state of the mind, of the conscience. Son Galla Akas ki, hearing the narrative of that elevated spirituality. Son Galla Akas ki, the next verse is Kita. Kita literally refers to an ant. So this is an antonym to Akas. This is opposite to the concept of Akas. So Pacha is using it side by side. Akas ki, elevated spirituality, and Kita is used to represent a lower level of spirituality, which is chanting of the previous verses, or what we call the pretentious spirituality. Why pretentious? Because the next word is rees. Rees is imitate something, to copy something. So the imitation or the copy is never the original. So Pacha is providing a critique, number one. Secondly, Pacha is also providing a context for the critique. Pacha is also providing an alternative for the critique, a solution for the critique, by putting Guru Nanak's own original spirituality side by side. So on the one hand, we have ekadu jipao, lak hohe, lak vis. If this tongue were to become lakhs and lakhs of tongues, lak la geda akhiya. Then if those lakhs of tongues were to go on repeating, chanting one preferred, one selected name of the Creator again and again in lakhs of rounds and lakhs of gedas, that's on the one side. Here Pacha is saying, et raha patapavriya, but the way to spiritual realization of the Creator within is the elevation of the spirituality. So Sona Galla Akaski is the narrative of that elevated spirituality. Kita Iris, pretentious spirituality or imitation spirituality, aspires for the same elevation, aspires for the same goals. So the meaning of this verse, Son Galla Akaski, Kita Iris, upon hearing the narrative of elevated conscience or elevated spirituality, the pretentious come to imitate it. They may not know, they do not want to follow the real method, the elevation method, the gaye mushakat kal, the laborious, difficult, complicated, complex method of elevating the mind one step at a time. They may not want to do that, they may not know how to do that, but they do desire to achieve whatever the goals of the narrative of the elevated conscience of spirituality are provided for. So that is why it becomes pretentious, it becomes imitation. So Gurmukh Pyareo, what's happening here is that Guru Nanak is putting the existing methods of attaining God, namely chanting, which was very widely practiced. It is still being widely practiced. So Guru Nanak is putting that method of chanting into perspective within the real method and comparing it as how it performs, how it compares to the real Gurmat, Sikh, Shabda-based Guru Nanak spiritual method. So Guru Nanak is calling it rees. And the meaning of rees is fake imitation. So that's the fake imitation. Such can never be the real thing. What is a rees? What is a copy, an imitation can never be the real thing. Also worth noting, is the use of the word akas. Akas is the sky, the highest elevation, and kita side by side, which is ground insect, which is at the lowest level. So Pacha is using these metaphors of the sky and the ant. Songalla akas ki kita ai rees. What Pacha means is there are those who saw in the akas. That's the elevated spirituality. And then there are those who walk on the ground and can perhaps fly, a couple of inches off the ground, if at all they tried hard enough. So it is a lowly insect attempting to imitate the falcon. So that is how these verses can be interpreted in a accurate and in-depth manner. Songalla Akaski Kita Iris, upon hearing the narrative of the elevated conscience or the elevated spirituality, the pretentious also come to imitate it, hoping to attain the goals, the objectives of the elevated or the real, actual, original spirituality of Guru Nanak Pacha. And then Pacha says in the final verse, Nanak nadari paye Kuri Kure Tis Nadari, grace of the enlightenment, grace of the Creator. And the grace of the Shabd, the grace of the Creator in Gurmat is enlightenment. Paya realize, Kuri, those who are sense the Creator. In other words, all methods, all means, all goals that are minus the Creator, that have devoided themselves of the Creator. Pasha says in one Bani, Tuj Baj Kudo Kud. So this is the definition of Kud in Gurmat, that Kudo Kud is defined as a state of the mind, of the conscience, which is devoid of Tud, of the Creator. Tuj Baj. It means a state, a realization that is minus, without sense, devoid of the Creator. That state is called Kud. So Kudi, Kude, Tis. Kude, sense the Creator, and Tis is a lie. Tis is something that is fake and something that is pretentious. So the meaning of this verse, Nanak, Nadri Paye Kudi Kude Tis, means Nanak, the realization of the Creator within is through the grace of enlightenment. Nadri Paya. Paya is to realize the Creator within. Nadri, the grace of the Creator. So Pasha says the realization of the Creator within is through the grace of enlightenment. The imitated ways of the pretentious are devoid of realization. So imitation is not going to allow us to reach the realized state of the Creator within that Guru Nanak Pacha is advocating for us. So note that this is the conclusion, Gurmukh Pyareo. Guru Nanak is actually saying here that the ultimate aim is to attain the blessings of enlightenment, which are in the Shabad. The 38 Paurrees or the 38 rungs of Japa Bani are aimed at elevating our spirituality to be worthy of such a blessing in the form of enlightenment. That's what Pacha is saying. And for the other method, the chanting method, Guru Nanak says, Kuri Kura Teesa. It will remain nothing but a fake, a cheap and a poor imitation, a pretentious emulation, a lie of the real thing. One's mind, conscience and spirituality cannot be elevated through the lakh geda akhiya, ek naam jagdish. The only way to elevate that is et raha pat pavriya chadiya hoy akis. So what we have here is a comparison within a rejected method and within an accepted method in Gurmat. One method is called the Kuri Kuretis, the other is called the Nadari Paya. One method is called Akaski and the other is called Kita Iris. One method is Et Raha Patapavriya Chadiya Hoy Ekis and the other method is Lak Geda Akhya Ekanam Jagdish. One method is realization and the other method is chanting. One method is to use the conscience and the mind to elevate it, and the other method is simply to rely on Ekadu Jeepao Lakho Hai, Lakavis. Let's move on, Gurmukh Pyareo, to the next Paurree number 33. So this is the first verse of Paurree number 33. Akhana Jor Chupa Na Jor. Akhana is utterances or saying, Akhana. Jor is forced undertakings, obligatory accomplishments of mandatory deeds. So again in this Paurree Gurmukh Pyareo, Pacha is going to compare existing spiritual methods and the Guru Nanak's way of doing things, Gurmat, Shabda-based spirituality. So Chupa is silence, Na, negative, neither. Now, if we simply translate these verses in a vacuum, it would mean we have no power over what we say and we have no power over what we remain silent about. But if we translate it that way, Gurmukh Pyareo, then what we are doing is we are translating these verses in a vacuum, number one. Number two, we are omitting the rich, beautiful context, the ongoing discourse that has been continuing in the previous Paurrees. So in the previous Paurree, Ek Du Jeepa Lakho Hai, Nanak Nadari Paiya, Pacha was providing a comparative narrative of the real original spirituality and the fake imitation pretentious spirituality. So that is continuing into this next Paurree number 33. So that is how we're going to look at this Paurree to really get contextual meanings that flow from the previous Paurree and from the Paurrees that are preceding the previous Paurree as well. So, this is the translation of it, Gurmukh Pyareo. Akhan Jor Chupana Jor, the Creator's grace, is not realized through mandatory needs, forced deeds of utterances or forced deeds of silence. Where is that verse, the Creator's grace, coming from? That is coming from the last verse of the previous Paurree. That's what we mean by context. So, Pacha is saying, Nanak Nadari Paya. On the one hand, we have a spirituality that provides for the blessings, the grace of enlightenment of the Creator and the grace of the Guru and the grace of the Shabad. On the other hand, we had the Kuri Kuretis. So these two comparative methods are continuing, Gurmukh Pyareo, into this Paurree. So what we have here is Pacha saying there's a method in which people try to attain the Creator's grace by forcing deeds, actions, thoughts of and activities upon themselves and force themselves to do it and to undertake it in the hope of realizing the Creator within. So Parsha is saying, Akhan jor chupa na jor, the Creator's grace is not realized through mandatory needs, forced deeds of utterances or forced deeds of silence. So here I hope we can see the importance of context. If we simply translate this in a vacuum, Gurmukh Pyareo, minus the context, it will simply be meaning to say, I don't have the power to do this and I don't have the power to do that. Now that is literal, that's unhelpful, that's meaningless, and that doesn't provide continuity through the whole process, and that doesn't give us the true depth and intent of Guru Nanak's desire to put forth this very deep, meaningful, spiritual realization methods and discourse and messages for all of us to understand. So let's look at the next verse. Jor na mangana, de na jor. Again, without context, Gurmukh Pyareo, it would mean I have no power to give, I have no power to receive, I have no power to ask. But there's a context running. So let's look at the words first, Gurmukh Pyareo, one by one. Jor, again, forced undertakings. Jor paake, obligatory accomplishments, apne jor de naal. Mandatory deeds must be done at all cost. Na, negative, neither. Bangan, requests, demands, prayers in fact. Or then is offerings. Why do we translate Bangan as prayers? Because the word then is there. So the offerings are often connected with the process of asking, and the process of asking with giving is always called a prayer. So the meaning of this verse, Gurmukh Pyareo, Jor na Bangana den na jor, the Creator's grace is not realized through mandatory deeds of offerings or requests. It is not realized through any forced deeds of offerings or requests. It is not realized through any regulated deeds of offerings or regulated requests. Again, where is the context coming from? From the final verse of the previous Paurree, Nanak Nadri Paiye. So Pacha is going to tell us how to attain that grace and how not to waste our efforts, energy and investments in futile methods of forced and mandatory ways and means which are not going to earn us the grace. So the clergy defined religion, Gurmukh Pyareo, is based on two things. One, it's based on offerings, what we call peta, or what we call den in this verse, or requests, what we call mangan, or what we sometimes call an ardas. In spirituality of Shabad, both these are rejected. There is no spiritual act of offerings in Gurmat, and there is no spiritual act of requesting anything through an ardas or otherwise in Gurmat. Let me give you the verses that would negate both the offerings and the requests in Gurmat. Bhakt Ravdas has a verse, Tera kiya, tujhe kya arpo? I am in no position to offer anything, because anything and everything that I offer to you actually is already yours, because you are the Creator. So therefore, in the spiritual sense, there is no offering. However, we have been misled perhaps by clergy for their own interests or for whoever's interest to consider that offerings in part and parcel of Sikh spirituality. Now, if we go by Gurbani, Gurmukh Pyareo, Gurbani is giving us a totally different context and a different message altogether. Tera kiya tujhe kya arpo negates offerings. What about this whole business of requesting? Pasha says, Tu ape karta, tera kiya sab hoye. You are the Creator, the only Creator, and everything and anything that you give me or don't give me, it's from you. Tu ape karta, tera kiya sab hoye. Tud bin duja avar na koe. Kar kar vekhe jane soe. Jan Nanak Gurmukh Pargat hoye. Gurmukh with a Syari, spirituality of Shabd. The spirituality of Shabd brings about this realization that there is no need to request for anything, because everything that is provided for, given for, made available is by the Creator with His abilities and a knowledge of what I need. There is no need for me to ask. So again, these two are negated in Gurmat and Sikh spirituality. That's why Pacha is saying, Jor na mangan den na jor. The Creator's grace is not realized through forced or mandatory deeds, regulated deeds of offerings and requests. Let's look at the next verse. Jor na jivana, marana na jor. Again, translated in a vacuum. I have no power over life, I have no power of death. Yes, it is true, but here there is a context running. There's a spiritual message that is being developed, a spiritual message that is being perfected, a spiritual message that is being grown in our conscience, in our spirituality that's growing. So therefore, we have to keep the context in mind at all times so that it builds on our spirituality, so that spirituality grows, so that our spiritual conscience elevates itself. So the meaning of these words again, Pyare, jor, forced undertakings, obligatory accomplishments, mandatory deeds, na, negative, neither, jivan, life, maran, death. So the meaning of this verse, the Creator's grace is also not realized through forced, obligatory or mandatory deeds pertaining to life or pertaining to death. People do all sorts of deeds that have connection with life, and people do all sorts of deeds that are forced upon themselves but that are related to the notion of death. So Pacha is saying none of this is going to bring about the Creator's grace. The context again, Nanak Nadri Paya. So this is how Nadri is not going to be Paya in any sense of the word. Next verse, Jor na Raj Mal Manasor. Jor, the same word, forced undertakings, obligatory accomplishments, mandatory deeds or actions. Na, negative, neither. Raj, power, authority. Mal is material. Man, mind or focus. Sor, noise, claims, demands. Why sor being translated as demands and claims? Because it is to be read together with material, with the mal. So we make a lot of noise about the material that we want. So Pasha is saying here, Jor na Raj Mal Mansor, the Creator's grace is not realized through mandatory deeds of authority, forced deeds pertaining to material, or actions pertaining to focused demands. Jor na Raj Mal Mansor. And the next verse, Gurmukh Pyareo, Jor na Surti Gyan Vichar. Jor, the same word, forced undertakings, obligatory accomplishments, mandatory beliefs. Na, negative, neither. Surti, contemplation or focus. Gyan, knowing. Vichar, discourse. So there is a kind of a surti and a gyan and a vichar minus the jor, and there's one with the jor. So Pacha is negating the one that is undertaken through forced undertaking to obligatory accomplishments and mandatory methods. So Pacha is saying, Jor na surti gyan vichar, the Creator's grace is not realized through mandatory deeds of contemplation, or focus, knowing, or discourse. So any of these things that we forced upon ourselves as something that must be done, that needs to be done, that is mandatory, that is obligatory, that if we don't do, we're not going to be spiritual. Pacha is saying that is not the way to realize the Creator's grace. There's got to be some other way. Nanak Nadri Paya is going to happen in some other way. Then Pacha says in the next verse, Jor na Jogati Chutta Sansar. The same word Jor, forced undertakings, obligatory accomplishments, mandatory deeds, actions. Na, negative, neither. Jogti, method, technique. Chutta is to obtain freedom from chutti hogi, liberate. Sansar is the world, temporal. So Pacha is saying here, Jor na Jogti Chutta Sansar, the Creator's grace is not realized through forced, mandatory deeds of techniques pertaining to renunciation of the temporal. Chutta Sansar. So people undertake all kinds of deeds forced upon themselves to renounce the temporal and say these parts of the world, these parts of temporal activities and actions and thoughts and parts of the world are bad, they are negative, therefore I need to renounce them, I need to get away from them through a forced upon technique or forced upon method on myself. And Pacha is saying that too is not the way to obtain the Creator's grace, for the simple reason, Gurmukh Pyareo, that creation is created by the Creator. The Sikh who is in the process of spiritual discovery is not to condemn, not to criticize, and not to extricate himself from creation around us. We are part and parcel of creation. So these forced methods of renouncing the temporal, renouncing creation, and negating it all from our spiritual journeys and path is a no-no in Gurmat, in Sikhi. Parsha says in the next verse, Jis hath jor kar vekhya soe. Just one which those, hath with a sihari, hath which, within one's hand. In other words, we can deploy it or deploy it. Jor, the same word, forced undertakings, accomplishments, obligatory, mandatory deeds. Kar, undertake, to perform. Vekhya, literally to see, but the spiritual sense is to evaluate. We see to evaluate. We do something to evaluate if it's worth, taking on as part of our spiritual journey. Soe, such, the above. So Pacha is saying here, just hath jor kar vekhya soe, those who deploy mandatory deeds to obtain the Creator's grace have evaluated them. This is the truth of it. This is the naked truth of it. This is the absolute truth of it that we can't run away from. Pacha is saying those who have deployed these kind of methods, the jor methods, the enforced methods, the obligatory methods, the mandatory methods, actually have evaluated them, and the evaluation really is in the non-realization of the Creator within. Pacha will make it absolutely clear in the next verse. Nanaka Uttama Neech na koe. Uttam literally is high, it means worthy. Neech, lowly, unworthy. Na, negative. Koe, one. Pacha is saying, Nanak, the evaluation is that. Jis hath jor kar vekhya soe, that vekhya, that evaluation has been undertaken by those who undertook the methods, yes, because they didn't realize the Creator. And Pacha is saying, I will also provide the evaluation. Nanak, Uttam Neech na koe. Nanak, the evaluation is that undertaking or otherwise of mandatory deeds does not make one worthy or worthless of the Creator's grace. So what it really means is that these mandatory deeds, these forced upon acts, what we call rituals sometimes, that we force upon ourselves as part and parcel of our spiritual journeys, they are actually worthless. They are worthless because doing them does not make us worthy of the Creator's grace, and not doing them does not make us not worthy of the Creator's grace. So then the question remains, how is the Creator's grace obtained? Parsha is only negated the wrong methods. You still have to find an answer for what is the method to obtain the grace. Nanak nadri paiye. How is that going to happen? This step by step is in the next 4 bodies called the Khanda bodies. So Pacha is going to provide the 4 steps, the 4 Khandas, the 4 domains, the 4 spheres of spirituality in the next 4 bodies. Khanda means part. One part at one time, one step of elevation at a time. That's going to be Guru Nanak's way of obtaining the grace of the Creator. Nanak nadri paiye. What Pacha has done in these 2 bodies is made it clear that there are 2 kudi ways, kudi kudet, 2 imitation ways. Number 1 is the chanting method, by calling upon one preferred name of the Creator repeatedly again and again, or the repetition of one mantra. And secondly, by using of forced rituals, obligatory methods, and forced tactics and obligations, that things that one thinks one needs to do, one must do to obtain the grace of the Creator, and one thinks that by not doing, I am going to miss out on the grace of the Creator. By not doing that jor, in essence, pyareo, jor, therefore, obligation, therefore, forced methods, therefore, techniques, therefore, regulatory methods, therefore, strict mechanisms, therefore, really have no place in the spiritual discovery that is advocated for us by Gurmat. Thank you very much for listening. Paul Chuk Dikhe Makani, Fateh di Sanj Paiye, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.